Good morning, footies, and welcome along to your Tuesday Club edition of Foot and Review, powered by Foot Coaching. As usual, my name is Nathan. I'll be here for the next 45 minutes or so. Knowing me and Shaq, it'll probably go a lot longer than that. But we're here to talk all things foot. Not been a massive week in terms of content and things to talk about, so we've spiced up the show a little bit as well. So before we get into that, as I've just mentioned, Shaq is joining me as normal on the Tuesday. Shaq, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous, and it's great to be here, continuing our tradition of a Tuesday club. And it's good. It's good. I mean, I forgot the other guy that we had on here, whatever his name was. But yeah, I think we're doing a good job. We miss you, Dan. We miss you. I couldn't finish a sentence even. We miss having Dan around. But Nate and I are holding the fort together till he's back eventually, hopefully.
Dan who? Sorry, Dan who? Sorry. He's not even been making his Friday appearances recently. He is absolutely slacking. Shaq, it's been a whole week since we last recorded. How has your last sort of 7 days been in the FC25 universe?
I'm at a weird, peculiar situation with the game right now where I'm weirdly enjoying Rivals. I'm only in Div 3, but I'm really enjoying my time there. It just feels like a bit of a grind, but I kind of do enjoy it. But when it comes to champs, I think I've vented many a time on every single avenue that something's up with my champs matchmaking, something's up with my servers and the connectivity. So hasn't been enjoyable. It's just been a grind, and it's a grind that I'm starting to question whether I should continue. So let's see. I keep trying it every week, hoping for a different outcome, but it's not fun. Champs is not the servers, the connectivity. Ugh, boring.
Yeah, it's that extra sweatiness that adds on top of it all. I mean, how did champs go this week? Did you have a decent result even with the
Eh,
gameplay or?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't say my average is nine. I do get nine here and there. Eight is my bang average. Like eight, I can bang out eight without even thinking too much. But of late, getting eight has been a mission, and that's where I find okay, that's a bit weird that I'm not able to get to eight wins in a canter. So I stopped. Well, I would like to say I stopped at seven, but I got seven wins, and it was a disaster, complete disaster. And the seven wins just came through because I just changed my formation in the end to something I was more comfortable with, and it just banged out the wins after that. But it was a pain.
Oh, I totally get that. I mean, yeah, much the same as you. I've done my rival wins again. I think it was early Friday morning. I got them finished. Champs. I did my third champs in a row, which is also my third champs in FC25. I wasn't going to, but I had my arm twisted by yourself and the he who shall not be named in our chat. So I thought I'll play till six and just get a few packs, and I ended up going 10-5, which was all right.
Brilliant.
I did have a fun experience though in Rivals. I sent you a screenshot, and it did go on a lot further than that. But in Rivals, I had a match up with a guy who I think I beat. Did I beat him 4-2? I think, or 4-1. And he messaged me just saying that how terrible a player I am, how boring I am, how I'm stuck in this division, and he's going on to Div 1. And I kind of thought to myself, I'm like, if you're that good, pal, like, why haven't you beaten me? Like, he was giving me so much abuse, tell me that he's trying to help me get better. When I think in every single stat, when you go and look at the end of the game stuff, my XG was better, my possession was better, I had less tackles than him. Like literally, wipe the
What a
floor with
guy.
him, and I've not had that much. I don't really have messages on that much. I haven't turned them on, but it doesn't seem to be as prevalent as it has been in yesteryear. But that really tickled me because this guy was proper giving it about how he's a better player, and I'm just like, if you're a better player, why don't you win? So I mean, that's something that we're going to come onto in one of our sections about community, etc., etc. But that gave me a proper tickle just to see that, and after a while, my response was just to be, look at the score, pal, be better. And I probably got a little bit salty with him, but I thought that was quite entertaining. Shaq, I can't even speak today. Sorry, guys. We are obviously into the middle of this Grassroots Great promo, which is a bit of a tongue twister. We kind of had our expectations beforehand. Has it lived up to the expectation, Shaq? Or how are you finding this promo today?
Oh, this it almost feels like a brand new promo compared to what I was expecting. I think we all were expecting the Ibabo and Jovino and Dumbia, and it's just like a random players that have some connection. The only cool thing is look. There's some really good cards. They get full chem. Well, some of that I don't necessarily know how that all works, but it's all working really well. The chemistry is not an issue. Some really interesting cards. I will talk about my player in review at the end for a really cool card that I tried out this week. Overall, I don't know. I think since Team of the Year, it's just whatever they throw at us, it just feels like lackluster. Even though they're trying, it just feels lackluster to me. But hopefully, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that we have to say is the icons and the heroes, they've done a good job with them. I think.
Yeah.
I think they've, even you see Ian Wright, who's not usually a fancied card, and he's up at 2 mil still, and he looks a really tasty card. I think it's been a good selection for that. In terms of grassroots greats players and the actual sort of standard players, not 100% sure how they decide some of these players are potential greats. Some of them are obvious, but some of them it's almost like they've picked names out of a hat and thought, we'll make you a grassroots great. But there's some really cool cards. One thing I want to say again, pack weight though, Shaq. Talk us through the pack weight or lack of.
Yeah, you would expect that the back weight should be slightly higher for considering that there's quite a lot of cards that are. I mean, we want something to add to our teams. Yeah, the back weight hasn't been as grand as I expected it to be. It's fairly limited. I haven't really. All I want is to back a particular German midfielder, and I just haven't been able to back him. It's really hard to get a decent card out of these promos, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I see Maris pop and he seems to be the only
Oh
one,
yeah,
so next
yeah.
time he comes up, I think I might just drive my laptop to Saudi Arabia and just give it to him, to be honest, because it's doing my nothing. But that being said, we have had a couple of SBCs since the lads recorded it on Friday. A fan favourite for some, Diogo Jota. He's usually very good early doors. I think he's had another SBC, hasn't he? He was at a Road to the Knockouts. He had
Road to the
potentially.
knockouts.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's not massively different to this one in terms of overall. Obviously, the play styles and such are different. Is this a card that interests you at just over 400k?
Considering his allegiances, not at all. But look, a lot of people swear by a Diego Jota card, and he's really good at the start of the game when he's a five-star weak foot player straight off the bat. But never been a huge fan of his particular cards. It could just be me. I never got on with him. Maybe it's a skill issue on my end. I don't really know. But yeah, not really much of a hype from my end. But what about you? Have you tried a Diego Jota in the past?
I've tried his gold card because at the start of the game you kind of have to take every advantage you can get. At this stage, obviously, with Team of the Year pack looking in the window, this isn't a card that even makes the bench. To be honest, I think there's been a lot of
Yeah.
SBCs, a lot of pack pulls, even a lot of evils that we'll come on to talk about that I think are just better than this card. If you've got a Portuguese allegiance or a Liverpool allegiance, I can see why people would do it, but there's nothing on this card apart from the 5-star weak foot that I'm a bit like that's a must have. But carrying on the theme of content, I mean, the last few weeks I've been saying I feel there's something coming in terms of a massive SBC. I'm wrong. I'll put my hands up and say I was wrong. But what they have done is they've given us a couple of very tempting SBCs that aren't massive, but if you add 2 or 3 of these SBCs together, it does turn into a big SBC. So obviously, Kante came on Friday, and we may get on to talk about him, but one of the FC slash FIFA Ultimate Team absolute icons, heroes. He is a grassroots great. Ferland Mendy came at. He's sitting at 625k just now. What's your thoughts on firstly bringing Mendy out as an SBC, and then obviously the stats and how the card itself is?
I think it's one of those situations where any other year, Ferland Mendy would be priced slightly higher than what he is on the SBC front. And also, you'd expect that people will be drooling over this card. And I think you and me both have a Mendy in our clubs who's kind of on par with this Mendy. It's got arguably better play styles. I've got a Ferland Mendy evolution card that's got a Bruiser Plus on him. So I don't this particular Mendy. I considered it. It's not really a Bruiser Plus. Is not worse than having two playstyle pluses of block and um, what's the rocket ship one?
The rocket one, yeah.
The
I
rocket
always just
one.
call it rocket now.
Rocket ship. Everyone knows the rocket
Quick
ship
step,
one.
quick step.
Quick step. That's the one. It's just one of those things. Anyway, he's a good card. 625 is a good price, but I already have a Mendy in my club. Didn't really feel like grinding on this Mendy. So what did I do? Became just another rat down the corner. Just went ahead, bought a Theo Hernandez, put in the attack its instinct yesterday. Should have waited another day. Just put him on the Evo, and yeah, Theo Hernandez is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, Theo is wild. I mean, Mendy, like you say, I've eviled one. Similar stats, obviously the physicality, I think mine's at 85 instead of 90. I've got set piece plus on mine,
Oh yeah.
which is hilarious because it is overlooked, but the amount of direct corners he scores, the amount of free kicks he scores, like I think it's really valuable to have somebody in your club with set piece plus. Although to be fair, Thierry Henry's taking mine just now. He doesn't. I think he's just got the basic one, but the power in his shots is just stupid. So if you're around the area, he just batters them in. I don't think it's bad. I have played against him a couple of times in rivals, not as much as you'd expect. Not sorry, rivals and champs. He is very hard to get past. Like he's always going to be hard. I think you could probably just put his base gold in and find him quite hard to get past. But in terms of a defensive fullback, he is wild. I don't know if he's got defensive fullback plus. Oh, he does have fullback plus plus. So I think it's a nice card. I think if you've got the fodder in the gap, then it's definitely worth doing. But it's not like you say. It's not like yesteryear where that Mendy would be. Everybody goes out and you see him in every single team. Hernandez seems to be the one. I mean, Hernandez's gold card is almost extinct. He's still at 500k now, which is crazy, crazy. But the other SBC that's come, and this is one I want to delve into a little bit, Shaq. Bombito. He plays for Nice in Ligue 1, Canada, so it's not the best links. He's only coming in at 75k. Firstly, the base stats. So, I mean, he's rapid. He's got 97 at pace. He's got 84 defense, 88 physicality, and he's got Bruiser Plus. So, what do you think about the base? Well, not the base card, but the SBC or the look of things.
I think it's a solid looking card. He's got lengthy on anchor. He'll be incredible in game. He'll be really good in game, to be honest. And it's a card that, I'm getting tempted to complete for the sake of it, not for anything else.
Absolutely. I mean, he's 6'3", he can play centre back and left back as well. But the thing that really intrigues me, I know you've just used your attacker's instinct, but if you put that SBC card into attacker's instinct, he looks mental. And I mean like absolute mental. Obviously he's got his left wing position, which I'm not really interested in, but it gives him a 4-star card instead of 3-star 4-star. Bruiser and incisive pass plus. He's got base, pings, pass, whip, pass, block, slide tackle, rapid, quick step, and Travella. Very good combination. But then get that Bruiser plus with incisive plus, I think, is tremendous for a left back. Sprints, his pace doesn't get affected. Attacking position, 99. Finishing, 96. His defending and his physicals are fantastic. His dribbling goes up to 91. I just think this card, with that attacker's instinct, is one of these hidden gems, whereas if you still got it and you can do the SBC, I think that card could be unreal.
Oh, I completely agree. I think it's a really good card, and it's a good shout that you've made. I think it's a really good shout. The only thing is, but again, I think if he gets a grassroots, wait, hang on, attacker's instinct, that's not really, damn it, because he won't get chemistry. Because if there's other versions that you can upgrade using a strategic shift and using another version of his card, and you can actually get him to be full camp. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. You can play him on 1 camp, 2 camp, should be fine.
Yeah, I think if you've got a couple of icons, which there's been plenty of icon SBCs out, you get them on at least 1 or 2 chem. And I think this is one to rival that Theo Hernandez. We know how good he is, but I think having that 6'3" build as well, I just think that might help. Especially like I play my left and right back on his fullbacks. I think this card could be crazy good if you do him. So I plan to get him sort of completed over the next couple of days. I think that's almost a must do. We talk about could do, must do, don't do. I think this is a must do if you've still got the Evos. And like I say, I think this could be absolutely crazy. And people that don't know about it won't really know how to deal with him when you face him. He'd also be very good at centre back. Don't get me wrong, but I think as a fullback he could be ridiculous.
I completely agree. I think it's a bit of a shame because his existing card, the SBC card, will give you full chem. But as soon as you Evo him, I don't think that full chem exists. So it's a tricky one.
That is frustrating, and I don't know whether that could be an oversight from EA or whether that's planned. If it's an oversight, then if it's planned, that's very frustrating because if you do the SBC, you want to make that version of the card the best that you can and fit your team.
Yeah, exactly.
But moving on, I mean, in the last few weeks, Shaq, there's not been massive amounts to talk about. Team of the Year obviously exhausted everybody by the sounds of things. The game's kind of slowly ticked on. We weren't sure how they were going to go with the power curve. It looks like they've had, some decent cards without being Team of the Year level, which is exactly what you'd really want. But it does kill the buzz a little bit and kill the grind. We've had these Grassroots Greats SBCs where you can use your bronzes to get gold packs, recycle them into the 78 2 of 3 that came yesterday, which is quite a nice way to do it if you haven't burned through all your bronzes already.
Hmm.
But with that being said, without lots and lots to talk about, we have opened up our sort of Discord, which is free to everyone at Foot and Review. But we've kind of asked for unpopular opinions, tinfoil hats, hot takes, that sort of thing. So we've had a few in. We've also added a few ourselves. So I was wanting to bounce some theories off you, Shaq, before we go into our usual sort of team information and reviews. But Ingvi first goes: overloaded servers making gameplay feel bad, or is it bad network coding, or have they shadow patched, causing players to feel heavy and slow again? What's your initial reaction to that kind of theory or those theories?
I think I go with the first comment in the sense that I don't really think it's a shadow patch, but it's definitely the servers have been kind of overloaded recently, and I've experienced that. At the top of the show, I've explained the issues that I've had with gameplay. This particular, I think I had no issues. Still, Team of the Year. I mean, even though the gameplay was the gameplay, no connectivity issues. Then suddenly Team of the Year came through and I was blitzing through. Life was wonderful. I got 9 wins at a canter. I thought this is going to be great. I can get 9 wins every week from now. 10. I'll aim for 10 next week. Now it's been a nightmare since then. I think a lot more people so feel like it's overloaded, and also I think a lot of people are trying to readjust because for the past couple of weekends we've already had, like, I think last weekend we've had outage that resulted in, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was the last week, I can't remember, we had an outage for for PlayStation, so it got extended a little bit, so the regular traffic wasn't really working, so a lot more people were cramming into a lot fewer time. This week, I don't really know, I can't really explain what's going on. Not definitely a shadow patch, but I just think it's just the number of people that are trying to play the game at this point in time, and trying to get into champs. I think that's what's causing the issues.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, we go back to the statement that EA released a couple of weeks ago saying that they patched, obviously, with the big gameplay patch, they've had massive success with that. I I don't see them going back. We say this every week. I don't see them going back on that. I think it's a combination between the servers like you have experienced, but also the cards that we've got, people adjusting to the game as well. You know, when that patch hit, nobody really knew what to do. They just put the fastest players with quick step and technical basically out wide and just blitz everyone. Whereas I think the game's kind of changed a bit since then. So it could be bad the network coding, or it could just be that EA's allocation of servers as well. Because I'm not sure whether they may have opened up a little bit more for Team of the Year, knowing a lot of people will be on to try and grind a few packs, so they kind of had to open up. Whereas it depends on their figures, but they may have kind of narrowed that sort of server sort of allocation down. So I think it's a combination of things. It'd be really interesting if we had anyone for EA that could answer why
Yeah.
there's these ups and downs, because with a little communication, people will just sort of start guessing and putting two and two together, and sometimes making four, sometimes making six. So that's
I'll give, sorry, just to give you an example for anyone that's wondering what the hell we're talking about. Just go watch Boris's video today. Boris Legend. I really enjoy his content. I think just because he can be negative in a very positive way, and I really love the way he puts it across. So there was, I think he put a video of his champs experience, and roughly when I was having the issue as well, and you could see that you could see he's shown clips and he just can't understand where some of his players are just bumping into each other, and he just was wondering what the hell is even going on. And then he takes a couple of shots and he just keeps hitting the post, and he's wondering, scratching his head, this is weird, this doesn't really happen. And his players are not making runs, and you just think, what is going on, why aren't my players making a run? So if you're curious as to what we're talking about, you're experiencing any sort of issues and suddenly thinking the game's against you, just go have a look. There's a lot of video evidence available as well that you can have a look at it just to get some closure, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And people like Boras and Nick run the foot market constantly bring out good videos. We're not trying to plug everyone else, but I think it's important to acknowledge, some of the really decent content creators, because some of them are very balanced. Some of them play the game a lot more intensely than we do. So it's good to see that. Shaq, one that you wanted to bring up, you kind of asked us, are Evo stats fake stats or are they true stats? So what do you think there? How did you come to this kind of potential theory, and what's your actual, your feelings on it?
It's a tricky one. Like I'm trying to be very balanced about this particular comment that I made. I mean, it dovetails into some of the things that we're going to talk about how players, it's not just the stats that you see, it's the body shape, it's the there's a whole lot of variety of things. It's a height. I think in the past some of the YouTubers went into the details of the weight. Of course we had the lengthy, not lengthy, explosive. There's a control. There's a whole lot of things that go on into making a particular card. And I'll give you an example. So this currently we're doing, all of us have an Icon Evo, and you look at some of their stats, and you think, oh, these are incredible stats. Like I have a Pasili that I was really talking about last week, and he's fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I really like his passing, but he's got other play styles. Like he's got a soft intercept, he's got a soft anticipate, he's got a lot of good stats to make him a really defensive, and he's got really good rolls as well, but he just is unable to do anything in that regard. And I really can't put a finger on it. He can pass kind of okay, but that's pretty much it. And take controversially, you take the likes of the cards such as like Maradona. He's good, really good, but does he play to his stats? It's a bit debatable, I think. But yeah, we'll talk about Maradona a little bit later in detail. But there's a lot of evolution cards that I think a lot of people have silver cards that are make into 90 rated cards. I don't think they're as good as the stats are explaining them to be.
Yeah, no, I have to be with you on that one. In all honesty, I think some evos are absolutely worth it. But even look at the team of the year winger
Hmm.
evo. I mean, a 94 rated team of the year winger like that I've certainly got. Like I say, I know I've been blessed in terms of team of the year pack weight, but I did Brian and Buemo. Oh, stat wise, apart from the 4-star weak foot, he should be up there with the best players in the game, and he's not. He misses simple chances. He doesn't quite move as smoothly as he should. His
Yep.
finesse, he's got finesse plus, but the finesse is like a fake finesse. Like sometimes it's unreal, and other times couldn't he hit a barn door with it? So there's got to be some. I mean, half of me thinks that EA are being quite clever because otherwise everyone would have cards that are just unreal from the get go. Some of them at this the level they should be in terms of the stats, and not protecting the curve. But I just think that sometimes there's too many factors go into making a card great. We'll talk about Van Dijk in a minute, but there's a lot of factors that makes Van Dijk really, really good. It's not just stats having 90 defending or whatever he's got. I think there's a lot that goes to it.
Correct.
So I think that you've got to be quite careful and quite clever about the evos that you do in terms of what you expect. And we've got people like Dan, sorry, that has his whole Red and Evo team, and he is trying to use those Red and players as much as he can, which is great. And I think Evos are good to try and get your team's lesser players up to a competitive standard. But I don't necessarily think that Evos are going to be the way to take your players past the sort of
Yeah.
current average. And I think that's quite clever from EA because if you did that, no one's going to go and buy packs. No one's going to grind certain SBCs. I think it's all
Correct.
very calculated. And I think it's nice to be able to use a player, but I don't think he's going to elevate you from 7 wins to 9 wins, say, in champs, or from Div 4 to Div 2 or whatever. I think I personally wouldn't see the point in having promo packs every week if they go this hard on the Evos.
I completely agree, and it's a really good point that you brought up the team of the year evolution, because I've done Dembele, who was the most hyped and meta version at that point in time. He's average. He's bang average. I think he was great for that maybe first few days. We're like, oh, this is amazing. But you spoke about Mbuema, who looks amazing on paper, but not really that good. There's a couple of people, some clever people that actually did. I think Adam from our Discord did Endrick, and he loves him. There's a Rodrigo. There's a couple
Rodrigo
of
is
evolution.
scarily good.
Always kills me. Always kills
Mhm.
me. And there's the Doku, Jeremy Doku, Rodrigo. Always kill me. And they're not everyone hasn't done them, but whoever's done them is probably lucked out. So it's just a mix. Sometimes you really can get lucky, and sometimes like you just get unlucky. I think so. Don't just follow a meta route like idiots like me, but but again, you haven't followed a meta route and you still weren't rewarded. So it's just one of those. Yeah, it's much of a muchness. It's just luck of the draw, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And staying on Evos, Rotos is also questioned. When will we have enough left back Evos to make an entire 11 and of just left backs of gone through an Evo into a position swap. He says it's not a serious question, but why do you have so many left back Evos? I mean, he absolutely has a point. We have so many left back right. We've had a few right backs, but it's predominantly left back Evos, and we've had ones that go left back to left wing. I think there's one out just now that goes left back into centre mid. Like, what is it EA's fascination with left backs? Is it just because Theo's so hard to pack and they want everyone to try and spend 500k on a gold 87 rated Theo Hernandez like yourself, or is there more to it, or is it just simply bad planning?
I don't know. I really wish I knew. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't think this is pre-planned. I think EA kind of does this up on the fly as they go along, and then they realize, oh, there's left backs that can fit into this, and they just go ahead and release it anyway. I think for a while we had wingers, only wingers, and then for a while we had only right backs at some point. I'm sure we had only right backs at some point. So do you remember the Lorente, the Kyle Walker, that just a whole heap of right back evolution? So I think, or maybe they have like they have a process where they follow position to position, and then they release all those evolutions relating to that position to kind of, fill that bucket as such. So it doesn't really, it's less for them to keep up with. Probably that's what's happening.
Yeah, it is a strange one. I can't put my finger on it at all. I don't know whether it's just that they see that the pack weight or something, or some of the promo players are better in certain positions, so they try and beef up then. No idea, but that's a very good one. Shaq, we've got four left. Two of them kind of go into each other, so we'll start with them. So this hot take, the community ruins certain game modes. So the first one that comes to my mind is Rush. We've talked about the potential of Rush. We've also talked about the AFK warriors, or the guys that either don't evo their players and just use random cards that don't relate to the objectives. But also those that just don't know how to play the blimmin' game. They don't pass. All they do is like sprint, shoot, and then they just say thanks, nice, and they completely ruin the game because you can't actually have a coherent game. How do you feel about that opinion? Do you think the community ruins certain game modes?
There's two things that I would like to say. One is, whenever I see someone that's using a random gold card that has no connection, that they're not evoing, there's got no connection with anything that's happening, no objectives. If ever you wonder who the hell is that guy's probably my brother. My brother doesn't play the game. He just jumps on whenever he feels like. He plays a couple of games of Rush. He doesn't care about grinding. He doesn't care about anything. Whatever cards he has in his club, and I think the best player he had in his club at one point in time was Serginho Dest. So he would rock up in Rush and use Serginho Dest. And then he had a 90 rated Zidane. That's it. He just rocks up 90 rated Zidane every single game because he doesn't have the 94. He can't upgrade to 94. 90 rated Zidane in every game. So whenever I see it, I'm starting to find a different I have a different perspective because I've actually seen it live. There was a time where I said, "Don't you have anyone else in your club?" He's like, "Nah, that's all I have." So why don't you open some packs to do some SBCs? Nah, not interested. So those are the people. But again, going back to your point about Evos, if someone's doing an Evo in Evolutions, I love what you said before we recorded, where you said if someone's doing an Evo, they probably should do it in squad battles rather than screwing up everyone else's time using Rush. And that's a fair point. That is a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, I do that. I don't even really venture into rivals unless it's like just play a game with it. So I'm like, well, I'll sub him on in the 85th minute and try to do that in champs. But half the time I got rage quits and couldn't actually like get the time to get them on the pitch. But I'm a believer in this. So I think the community have harmed Rush. I think Rush could be an incredible mode if people either knew how to play the game mode itself or people actually tried to help each other. Whereas I think some people are clearly in it for themselves. And, quite a lot of the time we see a random gold one, the best thing that happens is they just leave the game, which is great. But I'm a bit like, why are they wasting their own time, going into that menu, having 100 seconds, whatever it is, in the menu, selecting a crap card, and then disappearing? Like, they get nothing from it either. So that, I mean, the next one that ties in, and we're on slightly different viewpoints on this, Shaq. Golden goal, celebrate, in friendlies especially, or should EA should make all friendly modes golden goal?
Okay. How do I'm trying to come across as a normal individual without so when I start playing a mode that's golden goal, if I play a couple of games and everyone's going golden goal and that I've left a few games on golden goal, it starts to click in my head that okay, I can get this done in no time. So when I score, I don't celebrate. I just go straight, and sometimes I'll just pause just to give a thing. Let's quit. I mean, do you really want to play this game? Continue this game, and majority of the time people quit. But there's times when people don't quit and they come back in and they're just angry, and I don't really because they go and gritty, and then they gritty, and then they quit the game, and that really I don't really understand. I understand if this is like rivals or anything like that. I completely understand, but in a friendly mode, why does it matter? Like I'm just giving you I'm doing the same thing. And again, it's being hypocritical of me because the other person doesn't know that I've just probably quit a game and given someone a golden goal. So I understand that, but yeah, it's peace.
So I mean, I'm one of those guys that gets angry. I'm not gonna lie. If somebody pauses for me, like 99% of the time, I'll play golden goal. Like I'm quite open with that. If I'm battering the guy and he scores a lucky breakaway, there's a good chance I'm not going to do golden goal. So because I'm like I know I've got this. However, if you pause for me, if well, it's not always just when you pause, but if you celebrate then
Yeah,
pause, the celebration in my eyes, you're not trying to save time because you're wasting time celebrating. Then you pause, and we've all seen the
yeah.
meme where you've got people lying back in their chair just having a nice time, and then something happens and they sit forward, and it's like, I mean, that is like me. Like I will not lose possession. I will do my best, and if I go 2 goals down, 3 goals down, yeah, I'll quit out because I'm not getting anything from it. But if it's 1-0, somebody celebrates and pauses, or sometimes if I'm on a bad day and they pause for me, I just get really, really hacked off, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. I'm not giving you this either time. I'd rather rubber band, go make myself a cup of coffee and go to the toilet than actually do that. And I know people are going to say that makes me more toxic than anyone, but I'll take the dog around the village for a walk instead of quitting to somebody that's going to celebrate and trying to force me out. So I mean, everyone's got little things that flip them over the edge, and that's something I just can't stand. If you just skip your celebrations, go back to the center spot, leave it as is, there's a very high chance that I'm quitting. But no, the community really winds me up when they do that.
To be fair, I don't do it as often as I probably should because I know sometimes people want to play and continue. But sometimes when it's like the last few wins, I just have 3 wins to go and I have to go to bed. I just want to get it done. I'll spring it up on. And sometimes people just quit. And sometimes you get someone like yourself, or well, not as a good player as you, but someone like you will come back on, all guns blazing, probably score a goal in gritty, and then lose 6-1.
But at least they've got that one goal to get them through to the closer objective.
And that's when I wonder, I'm like, you wasted your time. Forget my time. You wasted your own time. We could have just been playing. We could have probably got. I think what happens to me in those few last few wins is like you're just wasting your time. Let's just go. You find another game. You try your luck. Let me try my luck, and let me just get the objective done and move on. Probably not the best thing because we just want to relax and play. But I think when you're time pressed, yeah,
Yeah, I can see why people do it. It's something that's always annoyed me, like from the get go, and like I'm very stubborn and I'm very close minded, so it just hasn't changed in my head. That's still something that tweaks me. Like, following on from that, game issues or people don't fully know how to get the most of the game. So we're not talking about servers because servers is something I don't think is going to change. But we've heard a lot about defending's broken, heading's broken, this is broken, that's broken. Do you buy into there's parts of the game that's just totally cracked, or do you think that people don't really understand the mechanics or how the game plays? Like, let's talk quickly, for example, about last year's game. We had the kickoff glitch, so people would play, one or two passes back, play a long ball over the top, and if you weren't switched on, it's almost a certain goal. It's definitely a certain chance. So in my head, from the foot coaching side of things, you'd know a lot of people were trying that. You'd select your centre backs, and right from the start, you drop your centre back really deep, and there's very few issues unless it's a very good player. I don't think that's a game issue. I think that's an understanding issue. But what's your thoughts on kind of that as a broad statement?
I agree with you. I don't think things are actually broken. There's certain things, like for example, some certain things are overpowered or meta, and we understand that. Like for example, 4-2-1-3. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry plays 4-2-1-3 because it's so effective. But is that broken? Yeah, kind of, but it's not really. Like you can overcome it. You can do other things. Like I've realized that I hate that formation. I really want to like it, but I hate it. I hate playing it. I forget playing against it. I just hate playing it because it's so boring. It's just like all you got to do is find that the through ball, and if you miss the through ball, you're done.
Yeah.
And you just sit back and just run around like a crab trying to hold the ball and trying to block up space, and it's I find it boring, but it's effective. When someone when majority of the people in bad gameplay are able to completely destroy me, I think, oh, this is stupid thing is overpowered. Well, it's broken, but we know the truth.
No, that is a good point. Like, to be fair to EA, I think this is one of the few Ultimate Team games that I've played where there's so many formations that are effective. Like, I will say that, we've got pretty much most variations of 4-3-3 are effective. 4-4-2 is good. I'm
Yep.
rocking 4-2-3-1 wide, which I've never used in any version of Ultimate Team really until this one. The 4-2-1-3. So I think that actually they've done their best to try and make sure there's not a broken formation per se. Like last year, the 4-3-2-1 was
Yep.
almost broken. It was crazy hard to defend against and to play against in general. But I like I said at the start of this a little bit, I think a lot of the people's issues are down to their understandings of the game itself in terms of the mechanics, in terms of what their players are capable of as well. I think you see somebody who's, he's got 90 passing, right? He should be able to hit every pass going pretty much. It doesn't work like that because, if you've not got long ball plus, you've not got incisive plus or ping pass plus, your passes aren't as effective as somebody with 85 rating with those stats. So I think that comes down to an understanding. Our final point, Shaq, FC have added hidden stats to players. So before we go on to the Maradona Zidane kind of Evo side of things we were talking about, the two that come to mind in this, Virgil van Dijk and Mbappe, universally over the last 3, 4, 5 years, even the most broken cards, especially the gold versions at the start of the game. Do you think EA add hidden stats, or do you think there's something a little bit more to it?
I think it's down to body shape. It's down to all the other things that we spoke about, like a lengthy, control lengthy, explosive, and the playstyle pluses. And now the playstyle pluses, the roles. So you combine all this into like a mixing pot, and there you have a solution. I think it goes back to stats don't mean squat. I think Envy would mind me saying this, but every now and then Envy loves to post like a comparison between like an R9 and this random Evo that's like 20K and says this is, and he shares them. And it was funny because John, foot coaching John, really gets irked with them. Essentially, you can't compare two players on stats, and you can't even compare two players on stats and play styles. The body, I think the body design and those kind of the height, the weight, they have a lot more. I mean, why was Renato so good in the past? Like the gold card, the Renato Sanchez gold card, he was incredible in game because he had some really unique stats, but he also had a really unique body that really just was perfect for what we wanted to do. And there's some cards, I think Van Dijk is one, Mbappe is one, who have the perfect play styles. Well, not even play styles. I don't think Van Dijk's got an Anticipate Plus. I don't think there's a card with Anticipate Plus, but he's still got the size, he's got the reach, he's got the rolls, and yeah, it just works for that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's so many things that make up a card to be in a good card. I think like the thing that used to get me was people say Van Dijk's only got 78 pace. Why is he catching my 90 rated player? But actually, first things first, when a player's dribbling with the ball, they're naturally slower. Just like in real life, if they're off the ball, it's slightly different. Van Dijk's pace split is crazy because he's only got 66 acceleration, so he's not going to catch you over 5 yards, but he's got 87 sprint speed and he's lengthy. And we all know that lengthy over greater distance is better than explosive or controlled. So things like that means that he's
Yeah.
very hard to get past that way. Add that, especially at the start of the game, with 93 strength, 85 aggression, and his standing tackle and defensive awareness being up in the 90s. That makes that card crazy. And we all know that any further iterations of that card and other promos only get better. So I think that's why these cards are different. Mbappe as well. He's got the pace. His pace is crazy. He's got the power as well. He's got the rocket. I think he has, doesn't he? His base one. So like his play styles are tremendous too. So I just think that there's so many factors go into a card that they're not fake stats, but unless you're a little bit clued up to what to look for certain players, it's not evident that a certain player is going to be so good. There's a few. It's like Al O'Wyer, is it last year or 2 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
when his Christmas time sort of SBC, not SBC, his Christmas time hero card came out. I remember John looking straight away going, that card is crazy. And I think when he came out to begin with, he was really low price. And Chris
I
Grandpapa Mac packed him, didn't he?
correct.
And John
And he
straight
said
away
it
went,
was
this card's going to
yeah,
be amazing. And within a week, people had sussed that he had the perfect blend. He's not too tall, so for a winger or even a striker, he was super nippy. His finishing was decent. You just had everything you wanted, and that card was everywhere. Anyone that had a bit of coins could go and get him. So I think that's the perfect example of a card being more than just its face stats. So I think people that are a little bit geeky in terms of the cards and know what they're on about. I think you can pick. We talk about these hidden beasts. There's going to be so many hidden beasts that people don't use because they're not just the usual big names, but they probably play just as well if you give them a chance.
exactly, exactly. I think just try some of these cards. I think I can't remember whether it was Dan who mentioned this or some we mentioned on one of the food and review shows. Was before you evo a silver or bronze card, just try the base card, and that gives you a really good example of what this player could actually be in game. I think a really clear example was Kobe, even last year before he was before he became a big thing, or even some of these cards, even as base cards, feel different. They move different. They have something, I don't know, I can't explain what it is about them. The way they move in game, those cards, when you evo them, they will be phenomenal in game. But Hudlin, I think Boris uses Hudlin, and he loves Hudlin. I see Boris, he bought the card for 200 coins, and he's evoed him up, and he still uses him in champs now. So yeah, there's some cards that are just ridiculous in game, and yeah, they've got all the right stats in the right places and the right things in the right places.
Absolutely. No, that kind of wraps up our hot takes on popular opinions, whatever we like to say. But before we kind of go into our Tuesday Club regulars, you wanted to bring up a little bit about the effects of giving out the free Maradona, to an extent the free Zidane card, although, the Evos are slightly different. The effect it has on the game, potentially on the market. So lead the way, Shaq. Sort of open your mind up to that.
Let me start off by saying it's great that we're getting free stuff. Definitely. It's fabulous that we're getting free stuff. It's really good. Everyone deserves free stuff. We should have been getting free stuff for a long time. And one of the things that I really have to congratulate EA is the fact that they've actually figured out a way to monetize these free giveaways in a way that it kind of feels like a win-win. Like we all, like I shamelessly or whatever, paid for my Evo upgrade on Maradona. I paid there, I can't even remember how many dollars it was. Wasn't that expensive. Got that done. No problem. I care about 500,000 coins more than a few dollars. Doesn't really bother me. But I think one of the things that we spoke about every single damn year was when you put money onto this game, you never know. You're just gambling. You never know what you're paying for. Whereas now they have found a way to give us something for us to give us something that we're paying for, and we know exactly what we're getting. So that's a tick. In some weird way, they've figured out how to monetize this stuff, which is good and bad. The good is, yes, we're getting what we're paid for. But the bad is, what is the impact that's happening on general play? I'll give you an example. Take an example of someone like me. If I hadn't paid attention to what was happening with Maradona, if I just expected Maradona to come out in packs, and even though in the show last week, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, we have a person here that actually works at EA because Nate actually called it. He said, "What if Maradona is like a Zidane or an SBC that is grindable, that is gettable?" And he was right. He's still in packs, but he's also grindable and gettable. If someone hadn't seen that, so I was monitoring a Zico. Had I bought the Zico for 1.55 million or 1.6 million a couple of days before Maradona came out, I would be losing 600k within 24 to 48 hours. And that's a bit unfair in my opinion, because what it does is it just scares people into trying to buy things off the market. And you can never be sure. For example, I go out and buy R9 Ronaldo today. For example, I buy the best version of R9. Tomorrow there could be a massive evolution or an SPC that's might have a small dent on him. But if you get a free Henri that can be upgraded, of course Ronaldo's price is going to drop down. So what's the incentive in me trying to put myself out there and get a card that's expensive? It's just it makes it really counterintuitive. And then what happens is everyone just holds onto their coins. Case in point, Nate, how many times have you holded onto your coins? Because not because you don't want to spend it, but you just are worried about how your coins will just be deemed useless. And it's really hard to grind up coins. If you, for example, Zico, I would have lost If I had 2 million coins, put 1.5 on Zico. If I lost 500 coins, that's a huge chunk of whatever I earned. It's just gone.
So
What are your thoughts on that, Nate?
yeah, I'm with you. Since I've really got into it since COVID, like you've noticed that EA have tried to clamp down on trading. So I don't know whether it's because they don't want people having lots of coins. I don't know whether it's because they want to stop, trading groups that monetize, the trading advice outside of EA. But the grind's gone a lot more untradeable. Even things like marquee matchups have kind of stopped being heavily reliant on certain leagues, certain clubs, etc. Even the likes of bronze pack method. I know there's some, especially now, there's value in it, but most of the SBCs, the league SBCs, don't need a bronze card from that league. So I think that they are doing their best to try and nullify almost the value of coins. So this year's been a big eye opener. Obviously, I can't spend coins just now, but it kind of makes me think there's actually very little point in having coins. Like next year, well, maybe not next year because next year's kind of going to be difficult with the wee one coming. But the next year, I'm fully invested into it. I think it's gonna if it carries on like this. I'm not going to worry about coins. I'm not going to spend coins. I'm not even going to worry if I have a 500k say Kitty sitting there because there's not even been many SBCs at the moment that I feel like we've had to go out and spend coins on because we've not had monster SBCs. We've had a couple, Cruyff was a bit, Vieira came a bit, but they all came at decent times where, Thunderstruck and Team of the Year, where, packs were everywhere. So there's grindable ways. But I think coins are almost, redundant. I I'm not a big advocate for spending money on FC points to do two packs. I think they've been very clever with the packs they've done because they give you guaranteed promo packs now, which you know it's better than just having a 100 player pack or a jumbo rare player pack or something because at least you're putting in knowing you're getting something from that. So I'm still again I'm not saying that's a tremendous way to do it, but it's definitely better than what they were doing where you could put in don't know 30 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid, whatever you want to put in and still walk away effectively with nothing. You might walk
Mm.
away with something that's not usable now, but you're getting something you know what you're going into. I think it's actually quite clever, and I'm not against putting money in for these evos. Like you say, I don't. This could come from their whole loot box issue that they've had over the years, where they're trying to clamp down on games taking advantage of vulnerable people with the sort of loot boxes. So you pay in £7 or whatever it is over here for an evo. I don't think that's terrible if it's a right card. So like Zidane, if I'd have put Zidane was a free evo, but say I put a tenner on Zidane and he's got 500 games on him, that's nothing really. Like it's decent value for money in terms of return and enjoyment. So I think they've been really clever. I think you're right. I think it's very frustrating for people that have a market interest like yourself, or people on
Yeah,
coins that like to, try new players. It's almost like you said, I think it was last year, you'd said you almost rent a player, you buy him for your
yeah,
playtime and you sell him at the end of your playtime. I think that's possibly the only way forward going now, unless it's a player that you've got affiliation to. So you buy a card, you almost write those cards off. You'd almost be as well putting it into an Evo just to give it a cosmetic, so you think of it as not being a tradable asset. But in all honesty, fair play to EA. They've almost addressed something. They found a way to make people happy that you know what you're getting, but they've also found a way to get themselves some money. And to be honest, people probably will be putting a tenner on here and a tenner on there compared to
yeah.
putting 30 quid. So it may not look a lot, but I think more people will be more likely to do things like this than they will to open packs. Obviously, you'll still get certain people that want to, that have the disposable money to open packs. But I actually don't think this is a terrible direction they've taken it.
Exactly. I think it's not terrible, and I kind of feel bad in a way because I have spent more this year as opposed to any other year because I've spent money on quite a few Evos. I think this recently, the Maradona, I just put some money on because I was like, I have the coins, but it just feels weird spending 500,000 coins when I can just spend a few dollars that the dollars get replenished quite easily without much work in my head at least. It just feels a lot easier, and yeah, it's just um I don't. I know we're supposed to be against FC point spending, blah blah blah. But again, if you're getting what, as you said, if you're getting what you paid for, that's fine. That's completely fine with me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd rather go and get a Chinese to eat my dinner rather than getting a lucky ticket and say you could have anything of a Chinese, an Indian, a sandwich, a bowl of soup, everything. I want to
Yeah,
know what I'm getting. I think it's a good, like I said,
it's
I'm,
a
I'm
good
not going to say
analogy.
it's a good way of doing it, but I think it's a better way and it's a step in the right direction. My worry is that they're going to just put everything behind paywalls. So the Zidane we all loved, even if you use them or not, it's a great idea. At the very worst, it's a free 94 rated card for fodder, for whatever. At the best, is somebody like myself that's been my starting cam since doing him. He's going to get replaced in the next few days by Maradona. But I just think that it's clever. It's a step in the right direction if they don't take it from one extreme to the other, which is always my fear with EA. Because if they look at the books and say, "Wow, we've just got an extra £2 million or whatever they get," they probably get a lot more from it. But say we've just got an extra 2 million from just having this one Evo and the paywall, they may think, right, how can we then do it next? And once every few months, fine with. Once a week, that's when they start taking the mick a little bit. So it remains to be seen how they take that going forward.
It's almost like they gave us a Zidane that was kind of free, but it only was free for people that actually had the foot founder or whatever. I don't even know how we accessed it, but we got it free. My brother didn't. So there is some kind of a wall on there. But Maradona was absolutely free till you had to upgrade him to the final level. But if
Yeah.
this keeps happening, like you said, if we get a new player every single month, that's tempting us. Eventually, this starts at the start of the year. We have to buy a player that we can evo at the start of the year, and then we're constantly evoing players and just chucking them out. Like for example, your Mbuemo, my Osman Dembele, they don't even make the bench. They're good, but you lose that connection with them. And yeah, and Maradona's he's good, but I'm not really in love with this card. He's great sometimes. He's sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe. I'm just, I'm just, I'm just trying to, yeah, paraphrase a particular manager on there. A player could do so as well, but yeah, anyway, yeah. So that's my stance on it, and I think it won't be long that we will actually see play cards in the store that we can actually go ahead and buy an R9 at the start of the year for like £1,000 or something.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see if they do that and what the uptake in that, because I think there probably would be a few people that do that, and there'll be a lot of people that go, that might turn people off to the game. But you're right; it's going to be very interesting to see how they take it from here. I hope they don't, overdo it, and I hope they keep it kind of nice and a bit for everyone, if you like. Moving
Yeah.
on, Shaq, we have our regular Tuesday clubs. We've gone from doing a short show, and we've already been going 50 minutes, so we will now
Formation focus.
again, I've lost a formation in review, so we might have to get Dan to record that. It's the least he can do for abandoning us on our own to run the ship. So, Shaq, I know you've spoken a lot about the 4-2-1-3. Is that your formation, or do you have something else for us?
No, I've gone back to a 4-4-2 that I mentioned last week, and I'm loving the 4-4-2. I should have stuck with my instinct. I think I went to the 4-2-1-3 and 4-2-3-1, the one that you shared, which work really well, but I'm just not comfortable in them. So I think going back to the 4-4-2, yeah, that's the reason I ended up at 7 wins. I probably would have ended the weekend league with like 2 wins.
That's fair. It's good to be able to try things, and you're kind of clever enough to see when things aren't working. I'm still in the 4-2-3-1 wide. After sharing the code with you, I realized that my setup was absolutely skew with. Apparently, I had
Oh,
Henri as
thanks.
poacher. I know. Well, it was what I was using, but it wasn't right for my play. So I had Henri as poacher, put him onto advanced forward. I actually think he's better as a poacher or having a poacher in
Oh,
that,
right.
because I think in that you've got your cam on shadow striker, your two wide people on inside forward. So I think having a poacher just to be there gets a better end result. So I'm still toying between that. I did the Kante SBC, so I had Kante and Vieira's holding CDMs, but you really mess a deep line playmaker. Kante and Vieira can't play one as a holding, one as a DLP. So I brought back Xavi Alonso for now. Keep toying with doing Schweinsteiger or somebody else. And I had Mino in there, but I think I'm just sticking as with just now. Our final topic, Shaq, as always, is I hope I'm getting the right button here.
Player in review.
Thankfully, I got the right one. Shaq, who is your player in review this week?
I've got to shout out Marios on this particular one because this is a card that I came up against numerous times in champs, and I had no idea. I thought it was just an Evo. This is how little attention I was paying to these cards. I thought it was an Evo card that they were talking about until Marios posted in the Discord about Gross. I think it's Pascal Gross or Marcel
Yeah,
Gross. Pascal Gross, yeah,
Pascal.
Pascal
Yeah,
Gross. Pascal Gross. So he posted about Pascal Gross that he packed him and how amazing his stats were. And I had a look at the card and he was absolutely incredible. So I went out and bought him yesterday and he is phenomenal. For 86k, you're getting a player with intercept plus and ping pass who's got 99 passing, 88 defending, 85 physical. It's just 88 dribbling. He's got amazing play styles. He's got CM holding plus, but he's got CDM deep line playmaker. He's got CM deep line playmaker as well. So he's got a whole variety of cards. I think I really enjoyed this card. I really, really, really enjoyed this card. I think for all those people that actually tried the German guy in the previous promo, I can't remember, the name's not coming to me. There was a German guy, similar sort of situation, but he's priced at about 300 odd K. This guy is a budget version of him. He's incredible in game and full chem. He gives you full chem.
that's a good one to know. My one is one I was sitting on the fence about for a while. I just mentioned him that I did in N'Golo Kante. I was a bit worried about him and Vieira. He's now replaced Paddy Vieira. Vieira's on the bench. Kante he is Kante. His pace, he says he's got 86 pace. He's definitely in his 90s. That's almost like a fake stat. Attacking, he doesn't add much to it, as you'd expect. As you're holding CDM, he doesn't need to. His short passing's at 90, so that's very good. His defending's tremendous. He's everywhere, and he times his tackles so well. His aggression's at 94, which I think's a lie, because in Kante in real life, if you wanted to go through, he'd open the door for you. So he's just like the nicest guy in football. But he is one, if you need a CDM that's going to cover a lot of ground, he's just tremendous. As Dan says, N'Golo Kante is N'Golo Kante. He's so good. So the full chem's really nice. I've got a few French players which he probably would have linked with, but having the full chem for somebody in the Saudi league is obviously helpful. So for 600k, I think, and to be fair, the way that Evos are going, he's probably going to fit in Evo soon enough anyway, because I think we're up to 89 rated Evo, so he's going up to 90. He's 90 rated, so he'll probably be eligible one in the next month or so. But if you're on the fence or you've not heard a lot about him, highly recommend him if you need an all-action sort of centre defensive midfielder. Shaq, that just about wraps up the show for today. Is there anything else you'd like to raise or add before we sail off into the sunset or in the snow? Apparently seems to be coming down outside now.
Lucky you. I've got the air conditioning on. I've got it's just hot where I'm from. Yeah.
Very jealous. But any extra points, sir?
No, nothing at all. Thank you.
Grand. No, nothing extra for me, to be honest. I think we've gone from having a show where we weren't sure how long we were even going to manage to run to going almost an hour. So as always, it's been an absolute pleasure talking all things nonsense in FC Shaq. We will be back next Tuesday. For those of you who's not in the Patreon, I think you get this on Wednesday mornings. But until then, there's only one thing left to do, Shaq.
Drop it.
We are going to drop it.
Drop it.
F-U.
T.
F-U.
T.
F-F-F-U.
T.
F-U. T.
T.
T. In the U. F-U.
T.